Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. Here's a question. How much stronger do steroids make you? Very common question and quite controversial. If you agree with what I'll be saying in a little bit, please comment. If you disagree, please comment. It boosts the algorithm. It makes us the money. And then we take the money and we go to the Lamborghini dealership and usually it's a couple of really big penny jars I'll bring in. They count them. And then I drive away with, Scott, what's a good color for my next Lambo?
You gotta go with the classic red, like you had the poster on the wall as a kid.
Audacious red.
Yes.
People are looking at you and they're like, wow, he made it. Or as a tiny dick, or both, as is true in my case. Yes. Except I don't have a Lambo.
It's like the joke for me.
Yeah, it's not a joke, says my sex doctor. Anyway, steroids and strength. So here's the deal. This is a cheat video because Greg Nuckols, as is usually the case in his utter brilliance, has already probably authored the definitive article on this. I would Google it. You know how to use the Google. And it actually is, Greg now has a sort of compendium of 3 articles that sort of feed into each other. It's all linked in one hyperlink article, so Yahoo, easy for you to find. But the core article here, Mr. Greg Nuckols did an excellent analysis and essentially did the following. He compared lifters in drug-tested federations and compared them against lifters in untested federations and saw what the strength difference was with all the world record lifts and national record lifts, etc., and sort of tried to figure out, okay, what's the percent difference here? And he found that it is roughly 10%. Now, it's a bit different for each weight class, a bit different for males and females. There's some nuance there, but an average of about 10%. Now, you may think yourself clever and go, hold on, Dr. Mike, and by proxy, Greg Nuckols. Everyone in these tested federations is cheating because they are stronger than me and have to be cheating, and thus it's all bullshit. So, yeah, you might have some point. There are certainly some cheating going on in natural feds. But if you've been around powerlifting, especially in the United States, you know that cheating is just not rampant in drug-tested powerlifting because, like, I've been around the sport for a real long time. There's just not a lot of people cheating because I know them. And they're just fucking drug-free, man. And a lot of them are like wacky, no offense, like super anti-drug, irrationally anti-drug people that think like vitamins are cheating and shit like that. So, and some of them do in fact hold national and world records. So, and I know several people personally that have broken national and world records drug-free, and they are legit drug-free because yes, we are that close. And not only would they tell me if they were using drugs, I may be the person they would ask how to use the drugs and how to evade the test, something I have been asked before. I never render an opinion on because then cheating is fucking bullshit. But I have been asked numerous times by people in other sports and other contexts, and almost never was it in powerlifting. So I don't think, my personal opinion, you may disagree with it, that cheating is a really big problem and in a huge way alters these numbers. However, yeah, we'll say, okay, 10% is too low, fine is 12%. 12%. It's not 50%. Drugs don't make you 50% stronger. It's not even 25%. Let's say it's half that still, 12%. Okay, that's not that much. Weird. Now, another line of evidence is a strong term for this. Another line of generalization is that I've been around powerlifting for a super long time. I used to coach powerlifting, used to be a competitive powerlifter. Don't bother Googling me, I sucked. And I actually only ever competed drug-free. But in an alternate universe, I actually did make the switch from being drug-free to not being drug-free. And I continued and still continue to do the core moves for years. And for a long time, I was doing almost exclusively core moves like squat, bench, deadlift, etc. on drugs versus off. Never competed on drugs. But gee whiz, that 10% is, I didn't even get that much out of it. And tons and tons and tons of people I've been around the sport who have been both natty and on gear, most of them will tell you, like, and not like, oh yeah, drugs barely help kids, stay drug free. Not that kind of bullshit. Like, they'll level with you if you're cool with them And if you know them well, they'd be like, yeah, like drugs definitely help, but it's just not as much as you would have hoped. So when, because if they say like, hey, listen, like the old anti-doping campaigns, like, don't do marijuana, it's going to make you crazy and it'll feel terrible. Like, that's a fucking lie. You talk to people that use pot or whatever, and they're like, it's awesome. And you're like, oh, shit, there's two different stories here. But you look at the records and the difference between natty and tested and untested records, like, it's not a big difference, maybe 10 to 15% somewhere. And then you talk to actual powerlifters, and they're like, yeah, like, I wish it was like a trillion fucking pounds that added to my total, but it really just wasn't that much. Now, of course, it was something, and of course, it makes a difference. But yeah, like maybe 10 to 15%, and it's not like 25%, it's not 50%. It's not crazy wild hopes and dreams. Now, that's weight class equated. So that means that if you, for example, take drug free and you lift in a 165 weight class, 165 pounds, and then you take drugs, you may add hundreds of pounds to your total, but the primary modality through which that occurs is the addition of muscle mass. Now you're 198 or 181, and yeah, you're totaling hundreds of pounds more, but you're not compared to your old numbers. You're compared now to the 198 drug-free world champion. You may look over and be like, oh shit, he's still stronger than me. Fuck, right? So per weight class, the effect isn't big, but how much can you expect to add for yourself if you get on steroids, for example? It's actually much more in many cases than 10 or 12%, not all cases, because gee whiz, you can add a shitload of muscle. Now, immediately, the sharp ones of the sharp ones of the lot may think, oh, hold on. So that means super heavyweight powerlifters, because they don't have a muscle cap, should have a bigger difference between their untested and tested varieties, and tested and untested, and because, they can add muscle mass and they're not worried about weight caps. Well, there's another problem there. So empirically, there's actually not a huge difference between those two. It's roughly the same, right about 10%. And you think, fuck, well, are all supers just on drugs already? That's not it. I suspect it's the following. When you get really, really muscular, it decreases your, for lack of a better term, strength to weight ratio per like cross-sectional area of muscle or per volume of muscle. Your strength doesn't improve nearly as much as you would expect, and that effect tends to exaggerate itself as you get bigger. And also you get into mobility and flexibility problems. For example, in the weightlifting moves, because some strength is displayed in weightlifting moves, snatch, clean, and jerk. If you get big ass arms, you actually can't rack the clean. You sure yourself can't rack a clean. You can't rack a clean. If you have enormous size legs and super big chest and everything, deadlifting becomes hard because you're kind of trying to deadlift around yourself. Benching gets easier, but hold on, you can't pull as much of an arch as you used to. So a lot of times getting hypermuscular, like supers that are on tons of gear and ultra jacked, they're not as much stronger as you would expect because they suffer from leverage advantages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the supers still don't win out in a big way. Now, of course, it's a big deal. 10 to 15% is a huge boost, but it's not this completely revolutionary amount. You're not going to turn into a different person altogether. And I'll get more specific about what I mean in just a second. Just covering steroids here, but what about like things like growth hormone? People ask, but GH. GH tends to make your muscles much more internally hydrated, which makes them look fucking super cool. I wouldn't be on GH, of course. But yeah, you just got to have half a pump all the time. And when you're in the gym, you have a fucking pump and a half. But that internal muscular water volume boosts your body weight a ton. It literally boosts your lean mass, which water is counted. So on stage, you look like a fucking pimp because you're enormous. But you actually are not much stronger, if not at all, because the amount of actual contractile tissue in your muscles is the same. Now, over time, growth hormone helps grow your contractile tissue, but that puts us back into the same problem of within any particular weight class. You just like, look, if you're 8% body fat, steroids, not steroids, it doesn't really you're just capped out. You can't put any more muscle on, and then the effects are marginal. Yes, growth hormone and other peptides can reduce your injury risk in any training. They can help you recover. They do improve the process, but not in some magical way. And the counterbalancing of the increased weight and thus the reduction of the strength to weight ratio makes growth hormone just not a real dependable strength drug. Especially if you're heavier, it can definitely be part of a toolkit for powerlifting, but a lot of times you'll pull it out a few weeks or a week before you actually step on the platform because you'll drop a bunch of weight that way. So it's not a miracle drug, unfortunately, especially for strength. Now, for hypertrophy, growth hormone is the bee's knees. It's it. For strength, it's underwhelming compared to what people expect from it. And that is also seen in powerlifting culture. So a lot of times you'll talk to high-level powerlifters and be like, hey, what about growth hormone? The consensus in powerlifting is kind of like, yeah. It's not like, yeah, for sure. Because there are some drugs that are like really dependably good at strength increasing. For example, like trenbolone acetate, most people will fucking just make you nonsense strong. That's where a lot of that 10% can come from. But growth hormone, very few people are like, dude, you got to get on growth. What are you doing for powerlifting or for weightlifting? They're kind of like, yeah, it'll help you recover and shit. But a lot of people, in the 80s, untested powerlifters just basically nobody used growth hormones. It's not available to mass markets. And goddamn, they were strong as fuck, like almost as strong as the guys today. So it's not this really big deal. Another quick point, just to, sort of fill the brain up. There are really big differences in acute and chronic effects. So over time, steroids can put on more muscle mass and make your training more productive and allow you to handle more volume and make you stronger, strength you keep for a long time. And that's one of the ways in which that 10% is revealed. But a small fraction of that 10% is actually in short-term dosing, acute dosing of steroids that make you stronger in the minutes and hours after you take them. In the hours realm, as an example, though many steroids do this, halotestin, fluoxymesterone, you take Halo, 30 minutes later, you become rather upset. In general, aggressive, excited, strong. And you feel strong in a way that doesn't make any fucking sense. And it does boost strength, just by a few percentage points. But gee, a few percentage points, fucking, that's pounds and pounds on your total. Another one is check drops. The technical name is mebolorone, and this is a drug you take that's unreal liver toxic from what I understand, and it makes you not happy, angry, combative, and gives you a little boost. And it only works for like a few hours, right? So yeah, you can take steroids right before strength competition, and they do fucking work. But most of their oomph comes from taking them for months and months and months before the actual competition, even years, and slowly building actual strength. All right, so what are some implications from this? Because some of the shit I said, yes, I did move my dick and nuts out of the way. You know what I'm saying? When your shit's kind of fucking tucked in there all weird, and my legs pretty much touch. So I won't say any more about this. It'll be our little secret. Implications. Some of the shit I said is kind of like, really? I'll step even more on that pedal. Here we go. And I know young motherfuckers is going to give me a ton of hate. Sweet, bring it up. First question, which is the implication here. If we take it that steroids only boost strength by maybe 15% between tested and untested records, that means we have to ask the question of, are natties really that strong? Because if you look at the tested records, the drug tested records, and you like knock off 5% off of them because you're like fucking cheaters and shit, you're still left with like bafflingly high numbers. Like people out there squatting 800 pounds drug-free and shit like that. Is that true? Are they really that strong? Yes. Yes, they are. Okay. Some people. Why? Because genetics is king. Genetics and time spent training add up to the absolutely biggest explanatory factor by a long shot as to who is stronger and who is weaker. Ray Williams, who I don't know personally, seems like a nice guy, competed drug-free. I don't know if he still competes. I haven't kept up with the sport in the last few months. Ray Williams was probably drug-free for some if not all, to my understanding, all of his unreal record-breaking attempts, like 1,100 pound squat or whatever the fuck with no knee wraps. He was probably drug-free. That's my best assessment. Now, I know some of you guys, you can't believe it. There are freaks out there in damn near every part of the world. And if you are not a freak, can you take drugs, just loads of them, fuck it, to become an absolute monster in strength? The answer is almost certainly not. Can you become much stronger? Fuck yeah. Can you become stronger than all the natties? Which is like kind of like you would think that's the case, right? Like in jiu-jitsu, you have this illusion that as soon as you get promoted from white belt to blue belt, just because you have a blue belt on, you figure like, well, I should be able to beat any white belt. Bullshit. Tons of white belts can probably fuck you up. If you're a blue belt, you get a purple belt, you should be like, well, I should never lose to a blue belt because I have a purple belt. Wrong. The distribution of abilities and thus victories and defeats crosses all the belt levels. A few days back, I got submitted in training by a fucking purple belt. I'm a brown belt. I'm fucking Dr. Mike. Look at all those muscles and shit like that. I'm supposed to know things. Fucking nobody told that motherfucker. He just dropped me like I wasn't even there. This shit is real, and these delineations between blue belt, black belt, blah, blah, the statistical distributions overlap a lot. And the thing is, the biggest distribution in strength is one of genetics and time spent training. You give me someone with unreal genetics and they train for a long time, they're going to be stronger than almost everyone who's on gobs and gobs of gear. Sorry, I know. I wish there was a pill you could take or a fucking injection you could take that would make you stronger than every natty so you could finally have something to say for yourself. It's just not a thing. And if you don't believe me, insert the do it meme there. Like, if I was taking as much drugs as you, I'd be as jacked and strong. Do it then. Do it. You'll be the first. Enjoy, right? Now, here's the thing. I wish it was the case. I wish you could take a pill because I'm fucking super pro pharmacology, super pro freedom. I think people should be able to take whatever they want. I can't wait for there to be a pharmaceutical intervention that really increases strength to like an obscene level that just leaves genetics behind. This is just not a reality, and steroids aren't the thing to do it. Do they help a ton? Fuck yeah. If anyone's like, those bullshit comments like some guy like deadlifts 800 juice to the gills and they're like, it's all hard work and chicken and broccoli. Like, shut the fuck up. Clearly he's got a little extra special help, a lot of extra special help. But a lot's like 10 to 15%. It's not 25%. It's not 50%. I'll put it to you this way. If you're an adult and you've been training for more than 5 years and you're benching, let's say you weigh like 180 and you're benching 225 for sets of 10 or so, there ain't nothing in this world you're going to be taking, with all due probability, 999 times out of 1,000, that's going to get you benching over 400 for reps. It's just not a thing. High 200s? Sure. Low 300s? Maybe. High 300s? 400s? Probably not. Very, very rare. Because strength is a motherfucker. And even if you expand your muscle size a lot, especially if you ratio to her weight class, the difference is, unfortunately, not as exciting as you would think. At the end of the day, here's the deal. Do your best to get stronger. Plain and simple. Don't worry about who's on what, or do. But, it's fun to speculate and all that shit. Derek, more plates, more dates kind of shit. But don't worry about, but if I took this, this, and that. If you do choose to hop on and intelligently and legally and not in a cheating way, use steroids to increase your strength, my personal advice to you, like real talk, like fucking bro to bro, don't get your hopes up too high. And at the worst case, you'll be pleasantly surprised. Folks, thanks for tuning in. See you next time. So, steroids make you stronger, but not by a crazy margin. However, they do add a crap load of muscle size. How much? Based on what? Check out this video. Let me know what you think.